Hello, this is going to be a run of the Ur-Quan Masters, an open source port of Star Control 2. Old game for the PC in the 90s. It's a space adventure game, one quite foundational to a lot of other science fiction games that came in later decades. I'm just going to get straight into it. Plenty of idle time so we can do the explanations as we run. So, I will count us in. That's a 3, 2, 1, go. So, this game is a direct sequel to the original Star Control, which depicts basically a big interstellar war between the Alliance of Free Stars and the Ur-Quan, a very dangerous, powerful species of, I think they're like giant caterpillars. They're scary, I promise. So it turns out Ur-Quan won, and everyone in the Alliance has been either they've fled, they've defected, or they're imprisoned. So we've come out from an outlying, forgotten colony, landed in the Sol system. Our first step, we're just going to talk to Fwifo here. He's the last member of the garrison that was supposed to be guarding Earth and stopping people from escaping. Okay, there's a slight keyboard flub there. He's very cowardly and very bored, so given that we outnumber him, he's happy to sign up with us. Yeah, he's feeling a bit abandoned by the rest of the garrison, so that's fair enough. We grab him because his ship sells for a decent amount. It's just going to be put straight into the scrapyard as soon as we get that option. Next, just going to come into the inner solar system and a little detour before going to Earth. We're first going to go to Mercury and do some mining. So this game's Planet Rover X gameplay has you zoom in, hop around the planet. There are often little hazards that you want to avoid. You can mine, you can grab rare resources, artifacts, what have you. Everything is pre-placed, so there's randomness in terms of where your ship drops to explore, but the actual locations of all the resources, artifacts, whatnot, they're all completely set. So it gives you a lot of power when you're speedrunning, because you've obviously got access to full information. You can do whatever you want. So that's the first and last piece of mining that we will do in this run, just enough to get a decent start for where the rest of the run's going to go. So resources are quite tightly routed. We've got a pretty clean path to getting exactly what we need at exactly the right times. We are also, at the moment, on a very tight in-game timer whenever we are in the solar system exploration mode or in interstellar space. Fortunately, the timer doesn't apply for menus, doesn't apply for planet exploration, and doesn't apply for combat. But I need to hit a cycle. Okay, my keyboard's just being a bit funny here. The Ilroth have turned up after our little talk to the station master, and they want to mess us up, so... Oh boy. Okay, that's a messy win there. The very first fight can be a little tense. Because the Ilroth, you spawn essentially at completely random positions relative to each other. The Ilroth cruiser is extremely powerful in close combat. Not so flash on other fronts. So, we are going to start by selling down both of our escorts and outfitting our flagship. So we're first going to buy one extra fuel tank and max out our engines, and turning jets, and then fuel as well. And we're just going to have to make do with slightly less in the way of crew than we would have liked. I think this fuel will hold. It's like 1 unit less than it would have if I hadn't taken any casualties there, but I'm pretty sure that's survivable. Resources are reasonably tight. So first order of business is to set autopilot for Alpha Pavonis and just lock it in. You've got effectively about 3 minutes or so just following autopilot, an auto-scroller effectively. So you can use that opportunity to explain a bit more about the different ways the game works. So there is a constant in-game timer. There's a date you can see ticking off on the right hand of the screen just underneath the flagship display. And that just goes. So whenever you're traveling in hyperspace, it will tick at a fixed rate. Likewise, whenever you are moving around inside a system, it'll also tick at a slower rate. There are various events that will go by this. There's a bunch of big picture event timers that will go, this is going to tick off this date or this much time after this other triggering event, and so on and so forth. There's also, and this is crucial to the early stage of the speedrun, there is a parallel dimension. So we're in hyperspace right now. There's also quasi-space, which is a very useful way to get around. There is only one way to get into quasi-space initially, and that's your natural portal that only turns up on 3 days near the end of each month. Because of the nature of the cycle, we're going to ideally hit it just at the end of the first practical cycle we can get. Quasi-space is a good place to get into because it lets you escape at a bunch of different points in the star map. Once you've got the ability to enter quasi-space at will, which I'm also pursuing and trying to get, you can effectively get into it for 10 fuel, fixed cost, and then you can pop out wherever you like in hyperspace. Quasi-space doesn't take any fuel to travel inside as well, only the 10 fuel cost to get into there. So that's going to be core to the basic navigation and routing formula. Theoretically, it is possible to just lug your way pretty much anywhere purely in hyperspace, but it's very expensive in terms of fuel resources and it's very slow, both in terms of in-game time and real time. So, needless to say, that's not how we're going to handle this thing. If we look down at the radar in the bottom right, we'll see a little black dot. So I've got an admirer there, who's coming in to talk to me, and I'm hoping that I can juke them on the way out. If we run into them, I'll explain to them a bit more. If we don't, then it's not worth bothering. We're coming up not too far away now from our next destination, so we're heading for Alpha Pavonis. There's a planet there that has a crashed Ur-Quan dreadnought with some power cells that we want to loot. We are still on a very, very tight in-game schedule here. There's maybe room for one serious blunder in your piloting. So I have also upgraded the ship's engines to maximum. Needless to say, that's useful both for real-time and in-game speed. At the moment, I've got the turning jets slightly upgraded, but only as much as I can afford. Ultimately, I'll want to have them maxed out, but it means that I need to be quite careful in how I handle the ship, because once you're going very fast and you're turning very slow, it's quite difficult and expensive to correct any piloting errors. So we're just going to land down here in this little corner, and there should be... Yep, there we go, the crashed Ur-Quan dreadnought. We'll try and avoid the fire. Don't want to lose crew when we don't have to. And back out of the system. The other interesting little room for optimization is that the little mini view around an actual planet is... you'll spawn in there based on your facing, and that, in the case of played moons or whatnot, that can be quite impactful. Alright, so yes, this friend here is trying to follow us, and we do not want to encounter them. Even if they're friendly, it's still going to waste a bunch of time on the dialogue, and I can tell you that they probably are not friendly, despite what they might say. Okay, we just need to wiggle a little bit. Oh, I'm just being slightly off. Okay, perfect. So, I need to align quite precisely here to make sure I hit the natural quasi-space portal. If I overshoot it, there won't be enough time to get into it before it closes. We should be okay. Ticks to April 19th. Yeah, so ongoing from the 19th to the 20th, that would be a closing of the portal instantly. And so that would basically be a dead run. We'd have to sit around waiting for another in-game month for it to open up. That's not happening. But now that we've got it, we're in quasi-space, so you'll notice that the date is still ticking as I move around, but the fuel in the top right is not. So quite handy on that front, especially in the early game when your fuel is quite tight. My first order of business is to visit the Araloo in their home world. They were allies in the first game, and they mostly peaced out in between games. But they're quite happy to help us. They like humans. They meddle a bit, but you kind of have to trust them here. Alright, so I've achieved two things here. So firstly, and most critically, I have acquired the portal spawner. So now that the next time I get out of quasi-space, I can just get straight back in by spending 10 fuel. That's obviously much better than having to wait for a month for the natural portal to turn up. The second thing is that I've set a story flag in place that is going to turn up much later in the game. It is necessary to beat the game. You must get the Ur-Quan talking pet. We can get into the why a bit later. So, just technically I don't need to exit quasi-space there, but it's faster to do so rather than just traverse all the way back down, because we need to get to a portal that's in the lower left, and we were in the upper right. So just a bit of geometry in action there. So we've made our first friends of the run. So, like, broadly speaking, the alien species have their own territory, they have their own likes and wants and whatnot, and generally they will be hostile or they'll be friendly. It's quite possible to befriend a lot of them. Some of them are easy to do so, some of them are not so easy. We're going to start the run with the low-hanging fruit. Both the Ur-Quan, they're just friends for the asking. Literally, all we have to do is talk to them and they're like, yeah, we like you. You just need to make sure to not pick the dialogue option that says we're going to kill you, because there is one that says so, and that will mess you up. So our next step is for another sort of easy target. It's the Pakunk. So they, like the Ur-Quan, are naturally quite positive. I'm just going to charge through and eat the dialogue. So this dialogue is not ideal, but I basically just need to say goodbye. And the escorts you can't do much with, but go to the homeworld and I'll have a fresh conversation, and we'll make friends with them. So, easy as that. Just 2 dialogue options, and we're allies, and they've given me 4 escorts. So, those Pakunk Furies are quite handy. They'll, practically speaking, if things go to plan, their only job will be to be sold. But that's good, because it means I don't need to go around picking up resources elsewhere. With that done, we're just going to go back to Sol now to do some shopping and some refitting. So this little quasi-space portal down here gets us very close to Sol, and just a little bit more navigating up in hyperspace will get us where we need to go. All the quasi-space portal exits are all fixed, so it's just a matter of knowing it. You know, have a map, memorize it, whatever works. And we're just going to line ourselves up nicely with the Sol system here. In we go. And we're back. So facing does matter here, so just going to make sure I'm facing to the right here as I enter Earth, because that means I start right near the station. So need to talk to the commander here, and it turns out so we get some Ur-Quan escorts as well. These will be very useful in the coming sections of the run. So I'm going to sell 3 Furies and do some shopping. Get 1 more fuel tank and max out our turning jets, and then max out our fuel, and then going to... No, I don't have enough to be worth caring about. If I had more spare resource units, I'd buy more crew, but I don't right now. That's alright. Gonna make our way out of Sol. Our next step is just a few little setting up things for much later in the run. Going to monkey around with the Ilroth. So that's the race that we encountered, oops, no, it's this way. Encountered, oh no, yeah. Don't want to go to Ilroth space yet, we want to set something up first. So yeah, the species with the sort of the pink Klingon-looking ships, with a big point-blank flamethrower, they mean business, they're nasty, they hate pretty much everybody, and they like doing violent and evil things. Fortunately for us, they're also very gullible. So, when we go to this little planet here, we'll be able to retrieve a piece of broadcast technology that we can essentially use to impersonate their evil gods and convince them to move from where they are stationed, where they're garrisoned by the Ur-Quan, and instead go and harass other people. So, just dropping down here. That's a bit far to go. Stay away from the bees, they'll mess me up. Lucky. Okay, so no crew lost there, which is good. And we're just going to make our way out of the system. So the next step is now to go to the Ilroth themselves, and yeah, give them the voice of God, effectively, telling them to pick up their stuff and move. Should be a relatively straightforward trip. Every time you move around in hyperspace, there's always the chance to have random encounters with other like ships. More often than not, they will be hostile, especially this early in the game before you've had the chance to make many alliances. Even the neutrals you kind of don't really want to bother with, unless you have a specific reason to talk to them before the run. Because the time it takes to do the little siren blaring and the dialogue, that's just time lost. And if they're hostile, that's a much bigger time loss and risk to the integrity of the run itself, because you have to worry about preserving your crew, you have to spend time to escape from combat while you're getting shot at. It's not a good time. You want to avoid contact with hostiles you can at like pretty high priority. Let's shuffle a little bit further up, and this should just get us into the Ur-Quan's home system. Yeah, beautiful. So basically we just go, get out of here, go do other stuff, and the Ur-Quan are like, okay, that's fine, we're going to go and mess with the Thradosh. That's fine. So that's going to serve two purposes for the run. Firstly, it's very handy because it means that they're not occupying an area of space where we want to rescue, scavenge some tech, where they are currently like full of Thradosh, so this will thin their numbers. But it's also critically necessary because it lets us access the Chamur homeworld, which the Ilroth are currently, until just now, been assigned to guard. So we need to get them away from that. So it'll be completely unattended, which will be good. But before we can get, well, we can access it right now if we want to, but before we can actually benefit from accessing it, we want to be able to actually get into the world itself. So to do that, we've got to do a few little bits and pieces in Mycon space. Avoid that little purple world. It's very easy to hit by accident. So, firstly, we're going to do a little bit of exploring around here to find some fragments of an egg case. Oh, lovely. We did it without taking any crew damage. Beautiful. So, the next step is to go to the Mycon homeworld and fish for information. So the Mycon, like the Ilroth, they work for the Ur-Quan. They're our enemies. And outside some very unusual circumstances, they are hostile, will shoot us on sight. Even if we talk to them, they're just going to try and destroy us after the dialogue is finished. So we'll see how busy their system is. Okay, I'm just going to take a safety save here, because getting into a scrap with the Mycon too early or too clumsily is absolutely a recipe for trouble. So I'm going to come in on their homeworld here, and that's not ideal. See if we can just pick our moment, charge in. Nope, okay. Got to get out of the way there. I was thinking I could just dive in between the orbiters. So this is going to be a little tricky, and that's just how it goes sometimes. Firstly, it's critical we ask the right question during our conversation on the homeworld. We've got to ask about Shattered Worlds and then bail. Having done that, they're still going to send their fleet out after us, so we just need to escape as fast as possible. That's a pretty good spawn there. We're going to take minimal damage in this encounter. Those first two shots are just going to flame out, and in fact, no damage. That's perfect. However, the problem is that the rest of the system is all roused against us, so there's a very high probability we're going to encounter a second Mycon fleet about to go into this planet. So we're basically going to have to replay the exact same encounter. Once again, very favourable spawns. The spawn positions are completely random, so there's a pretty high chance that you can just take ruinous damage in an encounter here. So that's a solid visit to the Mycon homeworld for the first time. So with that, we're armed with some knowledge and some evidence. So we need to now go back up here and talk to some new potential friends. So the Mycon have, as it turns out, possession of a sun device, a tremendously powerful piece of sort of planetary engineering tech that can replicate the direct output of a sun. We're going to want to use that later on to free the Chamur and accelerate their sort of fusion process. That will give us, it's necessary for the plot, but it's also very good for routing because it gives us access to a very powerful warship and then later on a lot of resources. So in order to do that, the problem is that the Mycon know that the sun device is extremely useful and powerful, and they guard it very, very heavily. So we're going to need some friends to get our way into it. Enter the Cyrene. They were part of the Alliance of Free Stars in Star Control 1, but when the war was lost, they basically gave up. They're sort of interstellar refugees. They lost their homeworld, and so they were happy enough with the terms that the Ur-Quan offered them of, like, basically just be stuck on this extremely pleasant world and don't make any trouble. So we have to persuade them to break the status quo and help us, and we do that by telling them that the Mycon are the reason that their homeworld got destroyed, give them some proof of it. So, having done that, they're very angry, and they're keen to work with us to try and get revenge. So we'll be on the the hows of that soon, but before that we just need to make one more set of friends. So we're going to head down to the galactic south and make our way to what used to be Androsynth space and is now instead populated by some great friends called the Urs. You might know about these folks from broader things. They've been a bit of a breakout funny success outside of Star Control 2 itself, but yeah, they're the ones who talk funny. Your translation module can't quite understand them. Oh, and we've been very lucky. So we're just going to try and talk to one of these Urs ships here, and because we need to get access to permission to access a planet that they control. So we're just going to be, hello, look at you, you look friendly, yes, we'd like an alliance. So because of this, the Urs now consider us to be happy campers, and they're very, very, they're perfectly chill with us coming in and exploring around this little moon here. Yep, you can walk around on the surface, not a problem, they say. That's fine. We need to go here in order to get a Tylo rock. So this is basically this is the rock that protects you from tigers. No, the rock that protects you from being controlled by telepaths. So a bit of psychic protection here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Which will be very handy for a later encounter. In fact, it's necessary, basically, but only much later in the game. So now that we've made friends with the Urs, we're going to go back into quasi-space and do some shopping. You'll notice that the fuel we have is running a little low, so it's worth topping up. And separate to that, there's also a little curio that we need to get. So to do that, we're going to go to the the major mercantile force in the galaxy, the Druge. They are not very nice people, but they have what we need, so we'll do business with them. For now, just go into their little world right by the sun. Hope to avoid that cruiser there. Oh, that's going to be irritating. Okay, we'll just have to manage that. Lovely, the world itself is unattended. The Druge aren't hostile, but I just don't want to waste time talking to them. Excellent, so we've done our shopping. We've gotten rid of the broadcaster and the egg case fragments that we no longer need. In return, they have maxed out our fuel. You can see 210 fuel, that's going to keep us going for a long time. And they have also sold us what they think is a useless trinket, the Rosy Sphere. This will turn out to be useful for repairing a plot artifact later in the game. Now, we're now going to pick up the thread of helping out the Cyrene, and we're going to go to the world where their fleet has been interned after the war. So it's in Ur-Quan space, which is hazardous. There are a lot of Ur-Quan... Oh, there's a lot of hostiles present just in space here. So we're going to have to fly pretty cleanly and not waste too much time. So I think I might have to take an encounter with that Ur-Quan, or that probable Ur-Quan there. So that's a bit unfortunate. We're going to safety save before leaving the system. Fortunately, the system itself seems to be unoccupied. That's not a guarantee. Ur-Quan ships can and do spawn here. And that it makes for a very interesting experience just sort of getting around. Still, I'm just going to go here, take some unfortunate crew damage, and make our way off the planet. Now it's just a pretty much straight zoom out of the system. But yeah, it will be a little tricky. So let's just safety save and cross our fingers that we get a clean exit here. No, we don't. Oh, and that second one's probably also going to bop us. Well, we'll just have to deal with it. So that's probably Ur-Quan. Yes, it is. We're just going to bail. Okay, so these are the Ur-Quan Korra. They're the even more evil Ur-Quan, but they're much, much easier to get away from than the green Ur-Quan. That really sucks. Because they don't have... Yeah, there we go. That's the problem. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is get a little more distance. So those fighters are going to mess us up, but the fortunate thing is they're a little slower than the flagship, so we should be able to take advantage of that distance. We'll get zapped a little bit, but the main cannon doesn't get to shoot at us, and that's good, because that will absolutely ruin us. If the main battery on an Ur-Quan Dreadnought will just shred the flagship before it's able to hyperspace away. Theoretically, it's possible with some tremendous skill and time to fight and defeat them, but it's even if you could reliably do it, which realistically you couldn't with the kind of fleet we've got here, even if you could, it would take too much time and not be worth it. So, a slightly scuffed escape, but we've achieved what we need to as far as helping the Cyrene goes. So, I'm just going to go fly back to the Cyrene homeworld and tell them about our success. And that will set their step of the plan in. So they are now going to get their fleet all equipped, and have it lie in wait in ambush for the Mycon. So just important, I need to pick the second dialogue option here. The first one wastes a lot of time, and go back to Mycon space. We've been given by Talana some bait that the Mycon can be enticed with. They basically just told them about the location of a world that's extremely suitable for Mycon terraforming. So that's what's going to get them to move their fleet out and get it away from guarding the Sun device. And while they're doing that, the Cyrene are going to ambush and destroy them. So back we go to the Mycon space portal, and we'll just go directly make a beeline for the Mycon homeworld and give them the quote-unquote good news. So this one is an interesting little encounter here because the Mycon are still just as hostile as they always were, but when you specifically talk to them at their homeworld and tell them, here's a planet for you to go and terraform, that encounter and that encounter alone, they'll let you go from. They'll just go, oh, well, you've done us a solid. We'll just let you go. But it doesn't apply to any other Mycon ships flying around the system before and after you tell them about the world. So you still do need to be a little careful. Oh, I've just got spectacularly good luck here. Almost no Mycon flying around. So this is great. I'm not going to complain. So obviously want to converse, and it's critical we tell them this, because if we don't, then they are just going to shoot us. So now we're going to make our way out, and they're not wasting any time. They are going to immediately launch their fleet to go and colonize this new world. So they're probably going to get killed in the process, but we actually directly don't care about that at this point. All we care about is that it has left their Sun device world guarded with just a skeleton crew. The mushrooms have skeletons? Okay, so this is looking alright. Those 4 ships over there are a little worrying, but it's only going to be a problem if they they do have some guards here. Well, we'll just have to deal with it. So we're just going to kite these ones out here, and then get straight onto the world. So, this time we're fighting. So they've got 5 Mycon ships guarding, and we're going to use the Aralu to fight them. So the matchups in this game, this is the first sort of proper taste of combat in the room. Oh, this sucks. So they used a gravity slingshot to get a bunch of speed with a ship that's otherwise very slow. I'm just going to, there we go, get behind them. So the Mycon ships, yeah, they're very slow, but they've got powerful homing pulses. The Aralu, on the other hand, are extremely agile, and, well, when you pilot them well, not off to a good start here. That's alright, we'll make it up here. But yeah, you can essentially run rings around them, you can fly, and the Aralu ship in particular is inertial, so it's got no momentum, so you can stop and turn on a point. Which means it's very easy to sort of maneuver around Mycon ships and get their own homing shots to hit them while they're trying to hit you. So that collision there was a little hairy. It made it very close between me actually getting bopped, but making it work. So that's 2 Mycon ships down, 3 more to go. It is, in principle, possible to win this fight without even firing your laser, just relying entirely on Mycon-friendly fire, but it's quicker to shoot them when you can. You don't have any other value for your energy. The other issue that happens, yeah, if you keep the pressure on too much, is that the Mycon can regenerate their crew by burning a bunch of battery. So that On the plus side, it meant that they didn't get to shoot me anymore. So I'll close it. So the Mycon shots do more damage. Their damage decays over time. I think that's 5. Yes. So I'm just going to do a scan here just to be absolutely sure I'm going to the right place, because this planet is full of earthquakes and fire, and it's a bad time. You need to be a little careful moving your lander around, because if you lose all of its crew, the lander itself gets destroyed, which is basically a game over. Oops, no, whoops. There we go. So, now I just need to bail out of this system. The Mycon from elsewhere are coming after me, but I don't care, because they're all in a bad position for it. Now that we've done that, we've got the Sun device, and that's enabling... Ooh, I didn't see them! The next important part of the run, which is going to free the Chimera. This will be our first of 2 visits to Procyon. They're very, very handy. Earlier versions of the run actually didn't free them until quite late. It basically just used them for the plot necessary stuff alone. But there've been like some... I say relatively recent, but this is still quite old. The current route now uses them for all of the remaining combat until the last chapter. Because their avatar ships are very, very powerful, they're durable, they can hold a lot of crew, and they have a reasonable matchup against both of the hostile forces that we have to fight between now and the end. So, we're just going to go here, orbit the planet, and... Oops, no, I'm doing badly. There we go, use the Sun device, and that will free the Chimera. And basically just go, okay, that's awesome. Let's make this work. So they are our buddies now. They're rapidly expanding their industry, and they're going to be a great help as we go. So our next step now is to go back to Sol. Because now that we've got access to the Avatar, it will be very handy for our... progress. So we want to buy some and refit. Depending on exactly... So, because I lost one Araloo skiff, I might be a little shy on resources to do the optimal purchase. I might need to sell some turning jets from my flagship in order to afford the 2 avatars that I need. We'll see how we go. It's, be alright. So we're going to come in here, once again approach Earth, facing to the right, so we get a nice quick trip to the station and get ready to leave. So we'll sell first all of these escorts, and we need 6,000 resource units. So, oh, we're good. So we're going to buy 2 Chimera avatars and fully crew. Unfortunately, so this game, the open source port, it's been okay in some of the control editions. So for instance, for fuel, you can use page up to fuel, like multiple fuel at a time. But for crew, you can only ever refuel, get 1 at a time. So I'm also going to top the mothership's crew up a bit, just for safety. Not strictly necessary. And going to max out fuel with the remaining resources that we have as well. And then leave the starbase. So we're basically all kitted out for endgame. We now want to get going, find the last of the 3 artifacts we need to do some further artifact repairs. It's very LucasArts adventure game with these. And we're going to go down to get the Aqua Helix. And the reason we need it will become apparent soon. So this is in Thradash space, which is where we sent the Ilroth. So there's a few potential hazards here. The first of them is that the Thradash themselves are still around. The Ilroth are attacking them, which has reduced their numbers, but they're still present. The good news is that we don't have a reputation at the moment that makes the Thradash want to fight us. So if we encounter them, we can just leave without hostilities. The problem, though, is that there are also going to be Ilroth present, who will fight us on sight, and they're a pain in the neck to fight with what we have. Oh, I've gone a bit too far, skewed a bit too far south. So unfortunately, we've got a few too many admirers here. Hopefully, we'll be able to get by without an encounter. Okay, so at least one of them's going to see us. That's unfortunate. I'm just going to hope that they're Thradash and not Ilroth. So just go into this inner side green world and grab the Aqua Helix, which is around here. Oops, yeah, okay, a bit off course. And zip our way out of the system. Oh, okay, so I've accidentally encountered a different world there, which is just a bit of a time waster, that's okay. Poor navigation, that's all there is to that. Should have just gone straight out. And I might be no, okay, couldn't, oh, this is going to be a pain. Who have we got? Who have we got? Okay, it's Thrudder, so I can basically just talk to them and they'll let me go immediately. Oh no, they want to fight. Oh, that sucks. Well, I'll just have to hyperspace away and hope they don't do too much damage. Cool, there's that a pea shooter. Okay, and now we can just quasi-space away. So, now that we've got this, we're going to go up to Utwig space. Oh, sorry, Supox space. They are little friendly guys, and they are holding the a device called the Ur-Quan that the Utwig really like. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so there are no Supox present here. We're just going to dip into the systems and see if we can find any in system. It's better if you get lucky and they're flying around in hyperspace and you can encounter them there, but we'll just do it this way. Basically just exhaust their dialogue, and they'll give us the broken Ur-Quan. It's made the Utwig very depressed that the Ur-Quan's broken, so it's good to fix it, which is what we'll do. So, going to use the Rosy Sphere, the Clear Spindle, and the Aqua Helix, and miraculously the Ur-Quan is now no longer broken, which means that once we encounter the Utwig, they're going to be very happy. They'll celebrate, they'll be our friends, extremely useful, both for necessary plot reasons and for convenience as well. So once again, looks like unfortunately there are no... I don't think that one following us is an Utwig, so I'm just going to see if there are any flying around in the system. Yes, okay, so just talk to the first Utwig and you can see, and tell them we've got the Ur-Quan and they can have it. And they're happy! Hooray! We're their best friends. So, firstly, this means we can use Utwig ships, which is useful for the final battle, but it also means that... where are we? Not too slow. I think this might be a Slilandro probe. Yep, it is. Alright, so we haven't seen any of these yet, but they are throughout the game. The Slilandro probes just mindlessly attack you. The good news is that they're not, like, too much of a threat, especially at this point in the game. They're just annoying. So the... Oh, whoops, that's the wrong system. What have I done wrong here? Alright, we want to go... this one. Whoops. Okay, so the other advantage of teaming up with Utwig and making them our friends is that they are now willing to give us access to a world here with a big, powerful precursor bomb. We're just going to save here. Do a little safety save. Because, unfortunately for us, the Druge have got here first, and they really want this bomb. Oh, that's... You know what? I'm just gonna bail out of here. And just restart that. That was an awful spawn. Bit of time loss, but it's better than just losing a ship. Anyway, yeah, they want to fight us for this, and they are just going to make a nuisance of themselves. So we basically have to smash all of these Druge ships orbiting this planet so that we can get the Utwig bomb. Okay, that's a little better. So the advantage we have here is that our avatar ship has a tractor beam, which can pull the Druge in and make them waste their time trying to navigate away from us, trying to turn around to escape the pull of the tractor beam. The Druge Mauler has tremendous firepower at long range, with a bunch of recoil that lets it sort of propel itself, but the downside it has is that its maneuverability is garbage. It's really slow and clumsy, so if you get inside and don't let them just sort of constantly recoil themselves away to gain distance, you can melt them. So that was sort of, oh, that wasn't a great, that one's not gone great. So I think I'm going to smash that one and then hyperspace away to preserve this ship. I can recrew damaged ships, but if the ship itself gets destroyed, it's not going to be any good. So I'm doing this not because like I'm going to win this encounter overall regardless. I've got enough like in the way of resources to do it, but I want to make sure I've got 2 ships for a later fight. And I think that's one more. Oh no, that's it. So that was not amazing. I'm just going to scan here because I can't remember where that one lives, and go down to look for the Ur-Twig bomb. Beautiful. So grabby, we've got that. So we've got a very powerful bomb. Why do we need a bomb, you ask? Well, ultimately, the final objective of this game is to blow up a super dangerous battleship that the Ur-Quan are fighting over. Okay. Yep. But the problem is that it's so dangerous, so powerful, that we can't do it with any of the weapons in our possession. We can sort of cripple it a bit, but we can't actually destroy it. So we need to not only get this bomb, we need to then soup it up with Tremura technology as well. So first step is getting the bomb, second step is getting it sort of integrated into your flagship so that you can basically just fly the flagship in and use it to blow up the Sumatra, that mega battleship. But there's one last thing that we need, because the problem is, not only do the Ur-Quan have this super battleship, they've also got an absolutely enormous fleet surrounding it, guarding it, fighting over it. So we can't defeat that fleet in a straight up fight, there are just too many of them. So what we need to do is distract them. And we do that by tying into a plot thread that we had ages back. We're just going to recrew that damaged avatar first. And follow up on the rumour we heard from the Araloo that there is an Ur-Quan talking pet that's recuperating here in the Umgar space. So we're just going to say hello, goodbye to these Umgar, and just a bit of a waste of time there. So fortunately the Umgar are not yet hostile, but it turns out that the talking pet is actually a powerful and extremely evil psychic being called a Denari, which is sort of the ancestral enemy of the Ur-Quan. They hate their guts. And the Ur-Quan, like, so basically, he's got mind control powers that they work on everybody, but they're particularly effective against the Ur-Quan. They've mind controlled the Druge into being their slaves, and they want to try and destroy us. So that's 1. I've got 10 ships I have to destroy. Let's keep going. Druge ships are a bit weird in that they have they're clumsy, they're slow. Oh, that's not a good start there. So we've lost one of our Zapsats, which sucks. We'll just have to manage it. 2. So if they're facing towards you, their antimatter cone will block basically any shot you fire, and they can just grind you down. But if you can trick them into turning around and shoot them from the side, then they're helpless. 3. I think that's 3. And I'll just manage my crew here, because ideally I don't want to lose either of these ships. 4. The Druge also, you can sort of hear that little pew pew pew. Oops, that's not good. Colliding with planets also messes you up. No, that's not good. 5. So yeah, unfortunately I've lost all but one of my little Zapsats, so I might just retreat after beating up the next one. Oh no, well I didn't even get to. Ah well. Not the end of the world, but this is why I was so careful to preserve 2 ships in the previous encounter with the Druge, because going to like buy and refit more from Sol is a huge time loss. I think that's 6. 7. 9. Wow, I barely needed to do anything there. My satellites just shot it. Oh, that was 10. Awesome. Well, we'll take that. Oh. Captain. Alright, so, having done that, the Denari tries to mind control us and realizes it can't because we grabbed the Talo rock all the way back earlier that protects us from psychic control. realizing that, it decides to strike a deal with us. Oops, goodbye Ungar. And it is basically going to help us distract the Ur-Quan around the Sumatra. So with that said, we only have one more task to do, one more destination to visit, and that's to pay another visit to the Chimera, who've been busily industrializing, cranking out their factories, and they are going to equip our ship with, or they're going to amp up the precursor bomb and use it to like make it even more powerful and build it, like sort of bake it into the structure of the flagship so we can use that as a delivery system. The problem is that it means that it renders the flagship itself completely helpless. It takes up almost all the space that you could use for weapons and shielding systems and whatnot. So it means that we are going to have to do all of our fighting without escorts, which is fine. It also means we can no longer escape. Oops. Yeah, if we get into combat, we have to either win the combat or it's game over from this point on. Which is a little...
Welcome.
So, in the meantime, we've gone back to Sol, and we have found ourselves with unlimited resources thanks to the generosity of the Chimera. So, we're going to buy a fresh fuel tank for our flagship and start assembling a fleet. It's funny, you actually have to buy that fuel tank, because otherwise you won't be able to make your way to Ur-Quan space. So, strictly speaking, you only need 3 avatars. You can, like, maybe it's theoretically possible to do the final fight with 2, but I'm going to hedge a bit. I'm just going to buy 5. We're not, because the final fight can be a bit resource taxing. It can be a little on the tricky side. So we're going to go with 5 avatars. And then we're also going to buy a pair of Ludwig Juggers. So these are handy not for the fight against the Sumatra, but they have a really, really good matchup against Ur-Quan ships, of which we will have to fight a fair few, even though we're distracting a bunch. So that's us making our way out of Sol, and that's our final visit there, and we're now going to go straight to Ur-Quan space for the final confrontation. So there are effectively going to be 2 fights and some potentially precise flying needed before those. So we've landed in Ur-Quan space and we need to get to the system there. Unfortunately, it's relatively busy with Ur-Quan ships, unfortunately for us. So it's quite important to... Okay, good, we've had no unwanted encounters. So we're now going to use the talking pet to scare off the bulk of the Ur-Quan fleet there surrounding the Sumatra. They'll fly away and we won't have to deal with them. We will, however, still have to deal with the skeleton crew that is guarding the battleship itself. So we're going to just fight this one and we'll do a safety save after this fight. So, we're going to just go in with the Ur-Twig and shields up. So the Ur-Twig have a gimmick where they have energy shields that can absorb practically any attack and recharge when they get hit, but they don't get any other battery recharges. So if your battery ever goes flat, you're hosed. But if the enemy is obliging and keeps on shooting at you while your shields are up, you can basically just sit there and absorb any amount of punishment. The other downside the Ur-Twig have is that their ships are not very maneuverable. So that planet is actually a non-trivial hazard to us. This is actually quite irritating. I'm going to have to... I think I'm just going to try and deliberately move a bit further away. This is quite irritating there. But, because yeah, the planet could just batter us into nothing. Shields don't work against it, unsurprisingly. There we go, that's much better. So you fight alternating Ur-Quan Xerzar, the green ones, and Korra, the black ones. The green ones are more threatening against, like, most ships, but they're a bit easier to fight with Ur-Twig because they're a bit more predictable. Their blasters follow a straightforward trajectory. The Korra sometimes do this big fireball attack, and they've also got irritating stuff from their shurikens. Oh, okay, yeah, so I was complacent there, and they got me with the ring of fireballs. That's okay. That's why we bought a second Ur-Twig Jugger. Theoretically, you can throw down with avatars, but it's expensive. There's not really any way to do it without, like, cost. So And every avatar that gets damaged or destroyed in this fight is one that I can't use for the Summoner fight. Which, yeah, that's not good. Alright, that should be 4 out of 6 Ur-Quans destroyed. Yep, perfect. So just let this one get a bit closer and shields up. Alright, so crew is a little bit hairy here. I'm just going to have to be a little on the careful side for this final one. This will be the final enemy. Okay, good. There we go. That's alright. Alright, so now it's the final battle. I am going to do a safety save before committing to it because obviously there's like, well, let's just make sure we can get through this. But with 5 avatars, it should be alright. We're going to get a final pep talk from the Denari, and then we're going to get into it. So the Sumatra is huge, and the ship itself, its hull is basically indestructible. What we have to do is destroy these red shield modules on the outside. Yeah, genius design, just put your shield generators on the outside, the only part of the ship not actually protected by the shields. That's like full-on, you know, Star Fox enemy kind of design. Yeah, so the green orbs will repel us, they'll bounce us around. Oh, that's an awful spawn. And there are also fireballs that will do massive damage whenever they're sort of intersecting where we are. I'm going to try and make my way around. So the avatar's good for this fight because it can do massive damage. Its laser has tremendous DPS. It will just melt stuff if it's able to get a clear shot at it. But it is a little on the clumsy side maneuver-wise, which also makes it quite vulnerable to getting blasted. Okay, that's just one more. You can shoot at the green orbs to smash them, but unfortunately the limited turning axis that you get can make them a little bit of an awkward proposition. That's going to be awkward. No, I'm going to have to take a slingshot around. Ooh, this is looking quite scary. Okay, shoot you. Yes. Oh, no. Oh, so many of these hackers. Okay, we done it. So I'm just going to... Oh, excellent. It got blown up. So that's... Getting destroyed on the last one is actually good for... Oh, crap. Oh, no. Oh, I forgot that we needed to exhaust those. Alright, that's very embarrassing. I should have come in with another one. So yes, the green orbs do minimal damage, but the flagship has no health. So we're just going to have to do a rerun of this one. Hopefully it will go no worse than the previous one. Oh, that's a pretty solid starting spawn. Get lovely 2 smashed right away. Just, yep, boom. Done a bit of damage. That's pretty solid as a start there. I'm going to see if I can make my way past these. Yeah, those gumballs are quite annoying. Alright, and okay, so I won't do the premature celebration thing yet, just blast both of these and now hyperspace out. So that was a bit of hubris there on the previous one, but we're good now. Make our way back out and go in with the flagship. It's an okay spawn point, and this time will be once we dock and start the bomb. So any second now, that is time. Alright. So yeah, that's the Ur-Quan Masters, Star Control 2, a classic with a lot of little fun little bits and pieces in it. I learned this game at Speedremizer sort of from September through to December last year, Speedremizer 8. It was a great chance to pick it up. Yeah, I'd be very glad if I could show it off. Yeah.